to meet you.
Steve.
How you doing, Steve?
Great to meet you.
Wait a minute. Do you on stage?
Yes.
Can you guys all?
So the two of us are on stage, but three is a crowd.
Okay.
So it's Patrick's company.
Gotcha.
The two of us are minority equity shareholders and advisors.
Okay.
And I am the connection to USD.
All right.
So I'm finishing up a corporate finance MBA here, which I'll finish with in a couple of weeks.
Good. I mean, let's start with something simple, like the inception of the idea I got. So understanding a little bit more about the addressable market that you have. Like what would your total addressable market, but when you really whittle it down, where are you going to focus?
Yeah, so that 7 million number up there that we showed on the screen is the architecture, engineering, and construction industries. That breaks down to about 35% architecture engineering, 65% construction.
Okay.
The ones that we'll be targeting mostly for that early adoption are going to be the architects and engineers. The construction group act more as viewers of these photos. You have two sides. You have those who take the photos and those who view the photos. Mm-hmm. That's not to say construction professionals don't take a lot of photos. They take photos every day. But the market that I know best and that my professional network is in are the architects and engineers. So those are the ones we're going to go after first.
Okay. And have you spent any time kind of quantifying what the size of that is, what the potential revenue opportunity is?
We have, we put together projections on a 5-year span, looking at user growth across that time and looking at eventually getting to about 144,000 paid users. Mm-hmm. Projections. Favorite funds. Actually, sorry. Yeah.
There you go.
So, at 144,000 paid users at $7 a month, we're looking at 12 million in revenue. Net income about 10 million. At year 3, we're looking at about 3 million in revenue. Year 1, because we're already halfway through, we're looking at about 75,000. So we're looking at a steady user base growth within this target audience over a 5-year period.
Okay. And tell me, what's the sales strategy? How do you reach these people? How do you sell? Who's the decision maker? What's the sales cycle time?
Sure. Greg, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, so one of the things that's really important to note here is that the app that Patrick did originally as a proof of concept has already been out there and we've proven a 40-cent user acquisition cost. So there's a direct marketing opportunity both as a pay-per-click, marketing options, a variety of banner advertisements and other sort of just digital media advertising. Mm-hmm. We think that the viral growth engine of what happens on a job site of coming in and using this tool and then having it infect the other people is a big aspect of that. So basically, we've proven a 40-cent user acquisition growth. We cut that. We stopped our 40-cent user acquisition cost today. We stopped advertising so that we could build a platform that we could actually start charging for. Mm-hmm. But even with those initial users that we got in, we've already seen a viral engine of growth. So that user base is growing without us doing anything. So we're excited about that. I think it's a good opportunity on that front. And then I think the other thing is all of our projections are in the AEC market. And what we've found is all of these conversations we've had with people, we've had conversations with law enforcement saying this would be a really, really helpful tool in the law enforcement space because they find that their officers go from a 20% conviction rate up to an 80% conviction rate if they can get the sheriff that's on the scene when an incident happens to go back to their desk and document it when they get off their shift. And so they're looking at it as an opportunity to use this tool out in the field. So the potential market is actually much larger than AEC, but we want to focus on something, obviously. And then in our go-to-market strategy, there's a whole lot of testing around standing up different landing pages that speak to different markets and trying to find the right
I'll
fit.
get a little bit more clarity on who are you selling to and who's paying for it? Is this
Individual user.
Individual user.
Correct.
So most of these
It's a
people,
business tool.
It's a business tool.
Correct.
And so are they self-employed? Are they employed by a company? How is it
They're
a dispensable item?
Yeah, so this is it's a similar model to like a GitHub, which is a developer tool. It's a software developer's tool. They charge $7 a month for their tool as well to host private repositories. Some of those people end up being just individuals who work in that profession. Maybe they're freelancers. Maybe they have a small organization, so they pay for it themselves. Other sales come from large organizations buying sort of a bigger tier of this. And that's, I think, what Steve was talking about.
We touched upon it, mentioning that we want to talk later about the fact that commercial and even academic sort of pricing schema are going to be markedly different from one-off. And a lot of that has to do with our variable cost structure, and housing and storing those photos is pretty cheap and it's getting cheaper. But if a company like Tishman with 60 job sites across New York is storing dailies, I mean, it gets out of control really quick.
Yeah.
So we are looking at some more robust sort of pricing for the enterprise level.
So that'd be a direct sales effort then?
It would be.
It would be.
with those organizations, yeah, and academic institutions as well.
And so do you have any experience, or can you kind of educate me on what the sales process would look like?
First, I would reach out to my connections at Tishman and ask them to come in and try the product, see how it goes, and through that experience, learn what works, what doesn't, and then begin to approach a few other institutions. I know Brown.
So we want to, yeah, so what we want to do is prove a profitable engine, right? A profitable machine that we can go out and do our Series A with, and that's done at an individual level. But in parallel, what we're looking to do is form these sort of enterprise marketing efforts. I've come from enterprise software sales. That's what I've been doing for a number of years now. And so to do that, it's around developing case studies, right? Getting a couple key case studies in place, and then going to trade conferences and those types of events, and then also just direct marketing efforts to those specific decision makers and audiences within those organizations.
Another big part of that, as far as the software adoption cycle for a large company to bring that into their workplace, it's a long sales cycle. But one of the things we're already doing with the first 50K of investment is laying the groundwork in the servers to make sure that we're providing APIs.
With
So
the
that
50K?
Well, yeah, so the 50K has begun, and what we're needing the seed round for is to complete this development.
Okay.
But already the architecture is being set up so that APIs can talk to larger enterprise softwares that exist that do document handling in and around this space. So what we're looking at is sort of, if not white labeling and licensing our technology into document handling softwares that are already on the desks of a company like Tishman, we were looking at ourselves more as an add-on. And that also provides some interesting opportunities later for collaboration or even sales within those providers.
So there's some significant heavy lifting there. So as is the way the solution that you're going to market with now, it's completely standalone, is that correct?
That's correct.
The one that is currently available on the Android store today is a standalone single user tool that was just built as a proof of concept.
Okay. And help me understand a little bit more about this need, or what is the pain point in terms of the sharing, real-time sharing you talked about quite a bit of time. I'm trying to get my arms around, like, how often do you need to really share in real time? What's the use cases?
Right, and so sharing is one aspect of this process.
And who are the people that are sharing?
Right, so and in any given project you have a number of players that are involved. I, as an architecture professional, as a designer, play a very small part in a big project. You have construction managers, you have construction people in the field, you have engineers, a whole slew of people that all communicate with documents, with emails, other forms of correspondence, to ultimately build what needs to be built. Do you want to jump in?
I was just going to say, I think the key thing that happens in the building industry is people communicate with images, right? So what happens is a client walks onto the job site and says, these power outlets are in the wrong place. This fires, or the building inspector walks in, or whomever it is basically taking photographs, calling out issues, and then, again, speaking to the APIs a little bit, where we see sort of a 3-year plan here is integrating with project management software so that these points that are sort of identified on photos become actually task to-dos. So that gets into sort of what's called punch listing at the end of a job. We've come in, we've built everything, but these sprinklers need to be moved, or this power outlet needs to be adjusted, or whatever. We can call those things out. So it's a very collaborative process. It's not necessarily real time.
And I think to speak to your question about the real-time aspect, when you are working with your partners within a firm, if you're taking photos of the job site and somebody back at the desk says you need to double back and get another photo of that, it's very helpful. But you don't usually, or you wouldn't imagine, you'd share with your client in real time.
And so, and the way that this is done now, and why it's actually a problem, is that in a perfect world, everyone would be on Dropbox. We'd just put our photos in there. Everyone would be part of it. It'd be simple, but it's not that simple. We currently share these through emails as attachments. And when it comes to looking back 2 months, 3 months in your large collection of emails for a single photo, it can be very frustrating. And it's really a matter of individual user ability to interact with the technology and making sure that there's just one simple solution in place that everybody can use, and it's just quick and easy.
I think the other thing, too, in the real-time collaboration is to give the construction worker a tool that he can use on his own phone to take a photo of something he doesn't understand what to do with. Where am I supposed to run this pipe? Right? Click the photo, touch the area he wants, and speak into it. He doesn't even need to type, hey, where am I supposed to lay this pipe? And then from the 30,000-foot overview, the project managers sitting back in the office have a timeline that's sitting there that says, this is the most recent issue that popped up, the newest photo that popped up, the newest message on it. Click it, identify it, and then they can write a message and push that right back to the construction person in the field, right?
To describe one way that was done before at Tishman, we'd have guys out in the field in the World Trade Center, and there'd be a counterpart I was working as a BIM coordinator, our counterparts were out in the field, they would take a picture on their phone or on their camera, then they would walk up the building to show us that picture. I mean, as the crow flies, it's a very short distance, but you're going in and out of one of the highest profile job sites, you know, in the country. There's security involved, both getting in and out. Then you get into the building, you have to wait for an elevator, you go up 30 floors. All of this time goes away when you just sync it from one device to the next. You don't have to worry about it.
And you've got a chain of custody on that data point that tells you
Exactly.
when those bit of pieces of information were shared and what was said and what was confirmed.
So tell me a little bit about the competitive landscape, the solutions that are out there today. Are you displacing those existing solutions?
That's a good question.
Yeah, and so this diagram kind of shows what our competition is. And there are a number of document management solutions that are out there. Bluebeam is one that all industry professionals are familiar with. It's great for managing PDF sets of construction documents. There's some functionality built in that allows you to mark up a PDF document, but nothing for images. There's another program called Sketch, which is an add-on to a popular note-taking app called Evernote. What it does is it allows you to add very block-like large arrows or graphics onto a photo, but when you save that photo, it's just a flat image. What Photo Survey does is you have layers. You have an image, and then you have these data points. These data points you can search for, you can manipulate, you can aggregate and export as a report. So it might seem like a very minor difference, but technically it's quite different.
And I think the other thing with a Sketch is you have none of the collaboration tools, right? It's not designed for that. It's designed to take a photo, draw a mustache on somebody, and send it off to somebody else, right? That's what it's really about. It's not about collaborating and getting a job done.
And even, I mean, Bluebeam is highly used, but then there's lots of other firms, like engineers are using different softwares. And so they need to get to a lowest common denominator file format, email it, pull it up in another. Photo Survey, with our open APIs and licensing into those other platforms, can act as a nexus for photo sharing and provide that sort of collaboration within, so that you're not ending up with, this email came in on Thursday, I'm quoting to this one, but oh wait, there's a newer one that I wasn't aware of.
And these types of products are very new, and they exist in like the video editing field.
Yeah.
And they've done there's a specific product in the video editing field that has done extremely well in taking the landscape by storm. And there's another one that is a desktop application in sort of the application design and graphic design world. This notion of, I have an image, I want to call something out and make a comment on it, and that other people collaborate on that point in the image. This is just a concept that's new, and in the construction space, it wasn't a possibility 5 years ago because not every construction worker had a smartphone on them. But now the macroeconomics are such that it becomes a very viable option.
So the requirements on the hardware side, as far as the quality level of what you would need this construction worker to be carrying around?
A smartphone.
I assume they're carrying
iPhone
iPhone
5.
6.
Yeah. No.
Any
Yeah.
phone built in the last 2 years could handle this.
But what you'll also find is, especially with Bluebeam, which is a very well adopted project management software, all of these large organizations are rolling out iPad devices across their job sites. That's what we're seeing as a very common practice. But what we're hearing back from it is, okay, that's cool, but Bluebeam software is like, a huge heavyweight whole thing, right? And we want to make this the tool that's as simple as Instagram, right, for a construction guy to utilize.
And it's not something you would use to report to your client who's paying for the project. So Photo Survey could sit in between all of those different users in a very easy to use collaborative way.
And we see companies like Bluebeam being great potential acquirers.
And that's
right?
just
Yeah.
construction. I mean, this is the go-to market because it's where we have our network and where the collaborative space of the job site makes the most sense. But it takes off in lots of different directions once we can scale up.
So how'd you come up with $7 as a price point?
So
Well, yeah, so looking at the way that Dropbox, for example, charges for their gigabyte storage, when you're
Right.
looking at a per byte storage price, more or less. So our initial cost was based on what do we need to cover the cost of storage and the cost of user acquisitions. And then we went from there, so.
and it was originally $5. I have a tremendous amount of experience doing subscription-based e-commerce. The price differential, the psychological price differential from $5 to $7 is negligible, and the benefit is much bigger, right? It's a 40% increase. And so that's where we came up with 7. But one thing that's really important to note is we're a very data-driven organization. So that price point is going to be tested, right? We plan to test, retest, and find out really what right now we have some good assumptions of what we think. In fact, most people have said that price is too low. You could probably be charging a lot more for this thing. Who know? We won't know that until we
That's one of
test.
the reasons I asked the question.
Yeah, yeah. No,
That's a big part of that 1 year timeline when you saw up on the slide.
Mhm.
So when we get to the viable product, that's what we're spending the marketing money on, is dialing that in with different industries, finding the different user acquisition costs in different places, and finding out where we can get the most bang for our buck
Yeah.
when we scale.
yeah, so that way when we go out to do our Series A with the express intention of sort of capitalizing the market, right? Buying the market as quickly as possible. That's the idea of our equity round. And by that point, we want to have a very rigid, proven cash machine, right? Here's our user acquisition cost, here's our LTV, boom, let's go and buy the market,
Got it.
right?
So as far as, so all the data that comes off of this solution is stored by you guys, correct?
Correct.
Are there any privacy issues with that? Do customers have issues with that being stored in your cloud and not their own?
So that's a really good point.
Yeah, I'll cover it briefly, then you can
Sure.
pick up Bradley, Bob. So all of the data
I
is
assume
stored.
some of this stuff could be very
Absolutely.
Sensitive.
sensitive and or there's a lot of liability
Sure,
potentially.
sure. So there are a number of access control systems that are built in that prevent me from seeing Steve survey or Greg survey. The cloud storage itself, we use a company called Rackspace.
Sure.
They store at high security levels
The-
around.
yeah.
Go ahead.
This is exactly what GitHub is example of that other tool that is a $7 price point private repository. One of the enterprise options is either to sync with theirs, instead of storing the data on our servers, right? Our goal out of the gate isn't to create every product, right? But the goal out of the gate is to get some users and get this thing proven. When it comes to the security, the larger organizations are going to be more concerned with that. But that's where you can sell them the sort of $5,000 a month or $5,000 a year. You know, we stand up the software stack on your servers in your environment, and that's totally fine, and that's totally okay. So the engineering teams that we're working with on all of this have that they have the express understanding that the software needs to be potentially portable.
Gotcha. And so,
Excuse me, time's wrapping up. Maybe your last question. Thank you.
oh, one more question then. All right, then I'll ask the most important ones. Why this team? Why you guys?
Well, so Steve and I have been friends for quite some time. Greg was an acquaintance that a mutual friend had set up. His experience in e-commerce and server-side development, his experience in corporate finance, and a number of other advisors who bring experience in startup development and product development. Between the five of us, I think bring enough expertise and experience to be able to take this to the next level. I have industry experience, I have software experience, I have design experience, but with all of us together, we have what it takes to really make this thing a success.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
All right,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time.